B105, the Big Dave Show, as we continue to get you guys to raise a little money for us to help out the Canine Comfort program at Children's Hospital. We like to give you examples of why you should be doing this. And joining us right now is a Children's Hospital parent. That's what I like to call them because I was once one of those as well. And it's Tasha Faruqi here with us. Good morning, Tasha.
Good morning.
Now, we have a Tasha that comes on the show from time to time. We call her the bougie empath. And I don't know, is she an empath bougie over here?
I cannot relate to the bougie, but definitely feel the empath. Hey, look at that.
You think you've got those empath feelings there?
100%.
The intuition.
Absolutely.
All right, give me some lottery numbers.
Yeah, really.
Come on.
Depends. When's your birthday?
Oh, she gets serious.
You do.
I love it.
Now, when we say that you're a parent at Children's Hospital, it means that you're a mom. You've continued to have your daughter, Soraya, over there. She's 11. She's been going there for, you said, 8 years?
That's correct. Yeah, we moved here, actually, I should say back here when she was 3.
Oh, tell us a little bit about her.
So Soraya is this bunky girl with this just bright light all within her. What's really, really, really challenging is Soraya has a disease that's undiagnosed. So she actually has a constellation of subspecialists at Children's. We're up to 15 subspecialists. She's seen by almost every department. And throughout her life, we have not been able to figure out what exactly is the cause for her symptoms. But she is a child that's G-tube dependent. She walks, talks, was advancing kind of how we had hoped. And then, unfortunately, about 2 years ago, just started getting really tired. And in looking into that more, her muscles, almost every muscle in her body is getting weaker and weaker. And about 2 years ago, she started the need for a ventilator to help her breathe.
Oh.
And so it was then that we actually went from having 15 subspecialists just to add on another department, and that's palliative care. And we are also in the hospice program at Children's as well. And so we do know that her disease is progressive. We do know that there's no cure. And I can't say enough about our fantastic team as well as the Canine Comfort program. And I know that's why I'm here. But I do want to let all our listeners know that even despite not having a diagnosis or a treatment, that these dogs can offer so much. And I'm excited to share more about that.
Especially when you can't go home and see your pet at your own house. I mean, I can't even imagine. So she's a full-time resident there then?
She's actually not a full-time resident. However, she has multiple appointments, I would say, per week, per month. We're at home, and we oftentimes go in for numerous procedures, testing, and throughout her life and time at Cincinnati Children's, that's what we would be going in for. And also multiple sleep studies. When you have a ventilator, every now and then you've got to stay overnight. Exactly.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yes. And, for her, she has a lot what we call sensory needs. So she gets very anxious with loud noises, certain textures, feelings. So those are the things that really freak her out. So even if it doesn't, quote unquote, hurt, it can cause her a lot of anxiety. And that's where we have gotten a lot of comfort from the canine.
I can imagine that's big help. Now, you're coming from a place in a medical arena because you're a pediatrician. So first of all, I know it's got to be super frustrating for you, for your daughter to have something that's not diagnosed.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of irony in my position as a pediatrician. As much as I'd like to say, sometimes I wear my doctor hat, sometimes I wear my mom hat. You wear them both at all times, and they're very intertwined. Just to make it even more interesting, my husband's a surgeon. And so I think that in thinking about the way that we have kind of looked at the world, very scientific and times very black and white. And I think just not being able to find an answer is one really difficult challenge.
Yeah.
And I think that view of acceptance of, okay, we may not, has really opened our eyes to looking at all the other ways that children can get comfort. Maybe not from an answer, maybe not from a treatment, but maybe there are other ways. And I feel like that's what we're learning. As much as I wish that I had this in training in pediatrics. While I know that these modalities existed, I feel like I spent so much time in looking at the hard evidence of science. And I think there is just so much more that we can be doing for our kids. And I'm just so glad that Cincinnati Children's has a program like this, because I wasn't even aware of all that it could do when I was training here as a resident.
Well, so can you give us an example of the first time the dog interacted with Soraya?
Well, I can tell you initially, with Soraya's sensory issues and her being really sensitive to loud noises, if she saw a dog from down the street in our neighborhood, she would tremble and she would run up into my arms. She has been terrified of dogs. So I will say that my own self got in the way, where I would see a service dog at the hospital and I'd almost shield her from it because I would be so afraid of her reaction.
Well, you didn't know. You're just trying to protect your daughter.
Absolutely.
You know?
And then if you ask her, hey, do you want to see the service dog today? She would actually say no. And a lot of that was probably my own fear of her own reaction. It actually wasn't until about 2 years ago where I offered again. And then now that she's able to articulate a little bit more, like, what is it about the dogs that scare you? And she says, the barking, the jumping. And I realized it was more of the unexpectedness of dogs or animals in general that can happen is what scared her. And so Child Life was so wonderful. They actually, talked it through with Soraya and saying, our dogs don't do that.
They're a little different. They're very well trained. They're supposed to be here for you.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's when she was open to it. So I'm so glad that we didn't give up and said, no, we're just a family that doesn't do this. And once the dog came in, it was during a genetics appointment. I just saw Soraya observe so intently. And then when the dog just laid down and we had Leica, she touched the dog and petted the dog, and I took pictures and I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening. This is a
total breakthrough.
Total breakthrough. If you told her what is the biggest thing that you're afraid of, it would be dogs and fire alarms. And she was doing it. So that was my first interaction where then I said, okay, to Child Life, next appointments, we're doing this each time. And each time she would look forward to her appointments.
Aww.
And she just had a sleep study, and you better believe that Chevy was there, and it was everything. So this has been a very slow introduction, but one that is now a magical relationship with the dogs.
Now, Leica, Chevy, they have a bunch of different dogs in Canine Comfort. Does she have a favorite?
She does not have a favorite. I really, truly feel that she now understands the concept of a service dog, and they are all wonderful. So no, not necessarily a favorite. They're
She
both
loves
great.
them all.
She loves them all. Yes.
And I think something that you touched on there, Tasha, is that for the parents there, you've been dealing with this for her whole life practically, and that dog brought a sense of normalcy to your daughter's life that other kids might take for granted very easily. So that had to be for you, like you said, you were taking pictures, but I guarantee you there were tears when you saw her first interaction with Chevy.
You better believe it. I think that I took those pictures in that moment, but then when I went home, I literally showed every one of her therapists that have been working with her for years with the loud sounds and we have noise canceling headphones and the fear of walking outside because she'd be so afraid of seeing a dog. I shared it with everybody because it's such a big deal, and it was such a big stride for her to not only face her fear, but to enjoy the calmness that these animals can bring. And when your child is calm, the parent is calm. Because, if you go back to what I was saying about why didn't we do this earlier, it was my own fears. I didn't want to see her upset. I mean, everything is so hard and so challenging for her. When she comes to the hospital, I don't want another challenge. That's how I looked at it. And this was it was beautiful.
It's like you guys both got over the fear together with the dogs.
Exactly. And now we get to do something fun when we're at the hospital, and it's calming, and it's something exciting to look forward to.
Boy, that's something you don't hear often. Fun at
the hospital.
Man, and it's amazing that the dog is helping her get through therapy, but the dog itself is a therapy in itself.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Exactly.
Well, this is why we wanted to highlight this wonderful program here and raise money for it. So we know that these dogs, they don't just magically appear and then go home. I mean, there's upkeep. You have to take care of them. They're dogs that need vet, visits. They need to be groomed. They need to be clean, especially need to be clean around these children and in a hospital, a sterile environment. So it takes money to do this, and that's why we're doing this, Tasha.
Absolutely. And in just doing some research and what it costs to put a dog through this type of intensive training, it is a very large amount of money. And it is priceless and so valuable to have these dogs. And the other thing is, when they come to the hospital, they're working.
Yes.
So as much as, one might think, if there's 1 or 2 dogs at the hospital, that's enough to serve, the whole hospital. But those dogs are working. Like, could you imagine working, 100 hours a week? I mean, because the people at the hospital don't sleep. There are procedures, there are kids staying the night. And, the more that we can have, the better that these dogs can do. You think about work-life balance, these dogs need some work-life balance.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we want to, get them the food and get them the medicine and things like that. And that's how our B105 listeners can step up and help by donating right now.
Absolutely.
Now, you interact with a lot of other parents who also have kids in the hospital. Have you seen maybe some other families have breakthroughs like your family?
Absolutely. I think that, with the privilege of being a pediatrician as well as being a parent that oftentimes just kind of gets to observe in both settings, I have seen such benefit with these dogs. Even my own patients that have told me about their experiences, and some that have even gone home to get a service dog.
Wow.
And so that's a huge step. So I will say this, I know this is going to be shocking from how we're talking. I have never had a dog before in my entire life.
Whoa, Tasha.
Or any pet.
Yeah? Uh-oh.
Until now.
Did you get one yourself?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So,
Cool.
yes.
What's his name?
His name is Taco.
Oh, that's great.
And with the cost, we have some amazing family and community that is helping us. And Taco is currently being trained, and he visits every week as he's getting trained. Some of the programs, you have to wait, but with us doing it this way, we can still have some exposure. And we also have 2 cats now. So
Look at you.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my gosh.
this has literally changed our perspective on animals, on this process. And I will say that, when my husband and I got married, one of the things that we swore to ourselves was we'd never get pets. And now we have 3.
3?
Yes.
They're like
things are
tattoos. You're
changing.
just going to keep getting more.
Actually, that's up on deck.
A tattoo?
Wait, he doesn't know that
A tattoo or another pet?
yet. Tattoo.
Of Taco.
Well, Tasha, you will be bougie before too long now. Oh, look
But
at that.
this is great. Like you mentioned, you have friends and a lot of people helping, to get this service dog. And that's what our listeners are here to do, here to help, hopefully help Soraya, help the Children's Hospital, because those dogs, like you mentioned, 100 hours a week, it's needed.
Absolutely, it's needed. I mean, we had to do a whole fundraiser in order to even get this started for ourselves. And so this takes so much work. It takes so much community effort, and it's so worth it. I mean, we have the privilege of living in this amazing city with the #1 children's hospital. Let's live up to that. Let's do all the things. I mean, other places are looking to us, and how are we caring for our patients? And there is so much more that we can do. I think we just need to look at this perspective. And again, I didn't know it until I was in it, and I'm a pediatrician. So please, if you guys can do anything, help all the kids that are there. You think about all the children that are going through chemo, that are there for long periods of time. Sometimes this is the only highlight they have in their day. And so I really would urge all of you guys to to give back to these kids. It means the world.
Wow, we need to have you come in for every interview we do ever.
I'm here for it.
Okay. Well, Tasha, Farouk, thank you so much for helping us this morning and sharing your story. And I think we're all going to be saying prayers for Soraya and you and your husband and everybody involved and Taco. That he's gonna be able
Appreciate
to,
it.
Taco, yes.
So this is just amazing. Thank you for sharing with us this morning.
Thank you for having me and letting me share.